Whether you want dioramas or to play with trains in your pajamas. Woo! Tiny towns, big time dreams. Woo! Building up your wildest scenes. Fflecsville has what you need. What you need. Every fun idea, every kid-sized dream. Fflecsville has what you need. Yes, indeed. Come on down and build your world with me. Fflecsville has what you need.
Hi and welcome to another video from CollectorStash.com. I'm Dayton and I'm going to be taking you through one or two of our cable drum ranges. We currently do three different styles. The first one is this one here, which you can see. This is our large drum. Now it's available in all three styles, but this particular one has nothing on it. It's ready for you to load it up with whatever your imagination takes, or leave it as it is and use it perfectly fine. The second one is our medium. Now this one's loaded up. This is a 35. This has actually got real steel cable on it. So we don't believe in making things that look like they're the correct item. We just use the correct item, although miniature in this case. And that's also available in a 36. This has got plastic pipe on it. It's not really pipe. It's just a thick plastic cylinder, a good long length of that you put on how you want. And then we do the small, and the small again is shown here with the cable on it. So we're going to have a look at how these are made. They're pretty simple to put together, and we'll have a look at the range as we go forwards. So let's take a little bit of a closer look. I'm just going to move these out of the way. It will leave us the nice medium one here. So first of all, let's look at the end of it. It's actually made of wood. That's an etched pattern on there to simulate the bolt holes and of course the planks. On the very end we have a real metal piece there, as you would have on there as the running part if it was suspended on a pole that way. And then we have a core obviously that you put together, and then we have this cable that is supplied for you to wrap. So in a pack that comes looking a little bit like this. That's the small and that's the medium package. So you get all the parts in wood, you get everything else you need, and a good set of instructions in there. So again, we don't like to do things that don't look realistic, so we try and use real materials wherever we can. So this is aluminium on the end, wood and real steel. So it looks quite effective. They're quite nice. Obviously the wood can be stained and coloured however you want it, and this is just left plain as it comes by us. So you can have a play, you can make them your own really. And again, that's the point of the Fflecsville range, is make it your own, make it the way you want. So you could paint this white, you could colour it, you could stain it with real stain, you can put an effect on the end, you can put decals around it or spray using a stencil, whatever name you want, etc. So they're quite flexible and versatile. They're just ready for you to decide what it is you would like to do with them. So looking at the range then, we'll start off. This is the 34s. The 34s come with nothing other than the cable drum itself, so you've got the complete kit, set of instructions, everything you need, and hidden in there somewhere in the package is the inner tubing, and also there is the metal for the ends of the drum. So that's the same with all of them. Every single packet has that, whatever the size is and whatever the style is. The only difference is what we put in there for you to wrap around the cable drum. So that's the 34 with nothing to wrap around, so you can use your own things. That's the 34 small. If I can get it on camera there, that's the 34 large. So the difference being you get two in the small, two in the medium, but you only get one in the large. One cable drum in the large, and the reason for that is it's large, it's big, so obviously it takes up an awful lot more material. If we compare it to the medium, which is basically the same size, you can actually fit two on the material. So rather than charge an awful lot more for it, we just do half the amount. If you want a huge amount of them, obviously you can get in touch with us and we can do you some sort of deal. If you want 50 or 60, well, we'll definitely do you a deal. So down at the bottom here you can see there's only two metal pieces, whereas if I was to look, well, it's hidden so you can't see it, but if I was to look at the medium, there'd actually be four in there. Okay, so that's the 34. The 35 small, where this differs is you can just see it at the back here. That actually comes with a braided cable for you to put on the cable drum when it's finished, as well as the don't know if you can see it just there, as well as the aluminium ends. So that's a small in the 35, and here's the medium, so it's the same kit again, and looking round on the back, and you can just see it tucked in here is the braided cable. So try and get that closer on the camera so you can see. You get quite an amount of it. I think this kit's supplied with over 5.5 meters of cable, so you know, not a small kit by any means. And then finally we have the 36, and the reason for that is we're out of stock on the large 35s, and I don't actually have any to show you at this moment, but you get the idea. It's the same as the others, just with a braided cable. So this is the 36 small, and the difference being this time that we actually have a plastic tube. When it's on the drum, it looks like plastic pipe, the kind of black irrigation pipe that you see on drums all the time. Obviously we can do that in other colours as well, so get in touch for that if you want a different colour. You might want blue for water pipe, etc., that kind of thing. So we can do this small. I have actually got a medium here as well, so you can see there's the full kit again, and again you get two, and here's the kit in large, and this time we only get one. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at how these are made. They're very quick and very simple things to put together. They're quite robust. We've designed them in such a way that they'll take a bit of a beating. They won't fall apart if you blow at them like some products out there. They're actually very, very nice to work with. Okay, so before we get started, all we need is a couple of things. I've obviously put down a work mat to work on. What we need is glue, and in my particular case I like to use the CA setting spray just because it makes life quicker and easier, although I will say you get a better finish if you allow the glue to dry naturally. And along with that, I have a cocktail stick for putting the glue where I want it, and I like to stick it in a bit of foam just to keep the glue from going everywhere. You'll also need some kind of marker pen, permanent marker. You don't actually need this, but it does help sort of tidy up the thing. And I always keep around a pair of scissors and a ruler just in case. We don't need them, we're not going to use them, but I always keep them around. Okay, so without further ado, we'll have a look at the kit, what comes in it, and we'll start putting it together. Okay, so let's have a look at the kit, and in true television style, here's one I prepared earlier. So in this kit, if I just pour the contents out, we have a wooden fret that contains all the parts, obviously for the cable drum. We have a couple of strips of card, and those just go round the center just to give us the round effect. We have the metal pieces that go on the end of the kit. That's just to make it look more realistic, really. So they sit in the centers here, lining up, and that would have been simulate the metal runners on heavy drums. Then of course we have this, and this is just plastic, but this looks like pipe when it's on the cable drum, and it's pretty much made of the same stuff. It's not PVC, but it's pretty close. Okay, so that's the kit itself. It's nice and easy. We're going to start with the wooden part. The rest really comes towards the end. So I'm just going to put the metal, the card, and the plastic off to one side, and we'll have a look at putting the kit together. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a couple of cable drum ends here from the fret. A little bit of a push and out they should come. We might as well take the top corner too. There we go. Oh, it's come away with some of this. And this is where we might actually need a craft knife in a second. So I'm then going to pull away a couple of the inners. And I want 4 of the piece that's marked B, which makes up the center of the cable drum. So if I just take out the parts I need, we're only going to be making 1 today, so I'll leave the other 4 to one side. Don't worry, they won't be wasted and thrown in the bin. We'll make a display piece out of them at some point. Okay, so looking at this one then, that's stuck in there, I need to reach over and get a craft knife, and this just needs a little bit of a cutout, just needs a little bit of help in a couple of spots, and that is pretty much it. Out it comes, very nice, very easy, no major problems at all. Okay, so as you can see, we've got all our parts. So these are labelled Part B. They've got a little etch on them. I don't know how well it'll show up on camera. I'll try and get one that looks quite well. You might not see it, but it's got a little B on it. Comes with a set of instructions. That's referred to as Part B. Similarly, this one has got a little A on it. Again, probably very hard to see on camera. It's oh no, that's coming out okay. So we got Part A's, Part B's, and then we have the cable drum ends. So the cable drum ends, I'm simply going to flip one over. I'm going to get some glue and my trusty glue stick, and I'm just going to start assembling. It's pretty quick and pretty easy, this one. It's not going to take long at all. Just a bit of care and a bit of time, just to make sure I don't get glue absolutely everywhere, because I'm extremely good at that. Very, very good at getting it on my fingers and my ears, up my nose, everywhere you can think of, in fact. Okay, so a little bit of glue on there. I'm just going to line that up dead center, and you can tell it's dead center when you can't see the other part. So I'm just lining it up there. There we go. A little bit awkward for me to do it on this angle. All right, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to take my little spray, and 10-15 seconds that will be set. So I'm actually in a position where I can carry on a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is just put a bit more glue, and I'm going to put it down in the gaps here like this, because the Part B's are now going to sit on top of this pretty quickly and pretty easily. And I don't mind if I get it everywhere, because you're not going to see this a little bit when it's finished. Right, now the part that has the B on, you can either have it facing outwards or facing inwards, it doesn't matter, but please be consistent. Make sure it's all facing in or all facing out, otherwise you'll have problems putting it together, really. Okay, so here we go. Those two leaning up against each other nicely. A bit of a click, and in we go. And then finally, I'm going to pop that one in, and then it's going to fall over on me, and I'm going to have to do it again. But a bit of time. Yep, you just hear them click, and that's pretty much all in the center there. So I'm going to take a little bit more glue, and this is to fit the next piece on top. I'm just going to put it on the corners there. Doesn't have to be everywhere. If I put it on the top, it's kind of wasted because it actually sticks through. But that will glue when we put the other cable drum top on in a second. Okay, so taking Part A again, or the second Part A I should say, and we just make sure that all clicks lovely into place. This one's not quite, there's always one. There we go, that's nicely in, and again a bit of glue on top now, and we can put it on a bit thicker and a bit heavier duty on this than we did on the other side, because we know that all of this is being covered, and that's fine. Make sure that nothing can be seen. And again, I'm going to just carefully line this up, but this time I'm going to try and line it so that the straight lines here line with the straight lines here. So I just like to put it sideways like that, get it as close as I possibly can. Here we go. Pop it on. Okay, and out comes the trusty setting spray. Probably overdone it, I usually do, but that's now made. Now obviously you can do that without the quick set, just need to do it in stages and take a few minutes for it to dry, but that is pretty much the bones of the cable drum done. And I told you it wouldn't take long, didn't I? Okay, so the next stage, I'm going to take my little aluminium frets. These do pop out with a bit of a gentle push, and sometimes you'll find them taped on the back because they popped out too well, and this is one of those instances, in fact. So there we go, I just need 2 of those per cable drum, so we can see those there. Now obviously on the smalls these get really small, on the mediums they're a little bit easier to deal with. So back to a little bit more glue, just a few seconds worth. Pop it around the edge there. Now, I'm not OCD, but I do like to line them up square as I can. And then stick them to my finger like that. I told you I'm very good at getting glue everywhere but where it's supposed to be. I'm awesome at it. Okay, so that's now on the top of there. A little tiny squirt should be set. The bit on my finger isn't set because it's sticking to everything. Right, so we'll whop it over the other side. Now I've got a bit of a bead of glue going down here, so I'm just going to pop that on there. Might as well use that. That's not. Into the pot we go for a little bit more. Just a little bit there. And again, same deal as we did last time. I'm just going to try and line it up as square as possible. Not get my finger stuck to it. Now obviously your choice of glue is going to influence how quick this sets, but the stuff I'm using is pretty quick setting, so you've got to move at a pace really. Okay, so there we go. There's just one more stage to this now, and the one thing I didn't mention is earlier, you will need a little bit of sellotape for this, or whatever kind of tape it is you use, and that will make life just a little bit easier for you. And what I do is I take it and put a little piece on the end of the cardboard like this, and we're going to then stick that sellotape to the flat part of this, and we're going to roll around without bending it. We're just going to roll this right the way round, and then I'm going to reach over and get some more sellotape, and I'm going to pop that in there, and that is the cable drum done. That's the easy part. Now the reason we've chosen to do number 36, as you'll see in a couple of seconds, is that's the slightly more difficult part. That's the part where we have to get this rather stiff plastic around a smaller diameter than it wants to work with, and we'll show you how to do that in just a second. Okay, so now for the slightly trickier part, and it's only tricky because this plastic is quite stiff. It will move. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my trusty craft knife, and I am going to remove the tape from one end of it. Now there is enough of this plastic here to actually do 2 cable drums, because that's what comes in the medium pack. So it will need cutting in half at some point, but it's up to you. You can do that before you get started. I've got a piece of tape stuck on the board, annoyingly. You can do that before you get started, or I prefer to just leave it as is for the time being because of what I'm going to do next, and work with all of it on the first cable drum, cut off what I don't need, and it leaves me plenty of overrun for the second one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dab of glue here. I'm going to try and get it up against the wall and that, so that I can just glue solid the very, very tip end. Once I've done that, I'm going to go away and I'm going to boil the kettle, so there will be a pause in the video, and come back with a hot bowl of water. And the reason I'm going to have hot water is I'm just going to dunk the rest of this cable in there, and it will soften it up lovely, and it'll allow me to put it round a little bit easier. Obviously I'm going to need to dry it before I do that, because this cardboard won't like to get wet. We're also going to then run a little bit of glue in places, and as we tightly wrap it round, we can keep sealing that glue on, and we can just put another dab, go round again, and we can keep it all in place nice and tight. Okay, it's a little bit tricky with this, as I said. Now the actual cable for the 35s is much easier. It's very flexible, but it's also very springy, so you have to still do the same, because if you loose go, it's going everywhere. So okay, so we'll just have a quick go at doing this. So I'm back to my trusty glue pot, and just a small dab of glue up in the corner, just like this. Okay, nothing major. No. Oh, I'll tell you what I'll do first. I'm going to take the lid off my setting spray first, just so it's easier. And then I've got to find where I put the glue because I've lost it. I'll pop that right in the corner there and just hit it with a blast. Okay, so that should now hold, but I'm going to give it a minute or two to make sure it's absolutely solid. Although it's holding, it does say on the instructions for this kit that it should be 15 to 20 seconds, but I need to boil the kettle anyway, so we'll take a pause there. Okay, so I'm back now with a nice bowl of steaming hot water. The melting point of this plastic is well above the 100 degrees, so you can just drop it in straight off. The only thing you need to do is first remove the tape that's holding it all together, and you'll find it springs into a bit of a coil like this, and that's okay. If you can see, it's sprung well open, so you can tell it likes to be rather sprung and rather stuck out. So we're just going to put it down in the warm water, and it will actually soften it a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes there and obviously talk. So the steel cable version comes with the 7x7 steel strands. I'm just going to bring some of this on. You can see this is a lot more flexible. We can take that down to very, very, very small little loops there. So that's easier to work with. The problem is you'll wrap it around something, and if you don't hold it tight, it just does this. Okay, so it's really, really easy to work with. You just have to take care to make sure you're holding it tight. So that's for the 35 version, but we're going to continue with the 36 now. It's probably had getting close to enough time. Getting close, I won't say it is. But we just need it to be a little bit more malleable than it currently is. So that should do it, and ow, that hurts your fingers. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of trusty blue cloth here. I'm going to move the bowl away before I spill it all over the nice electronic gadgets that I've got here. Put it somewhere safe. When I say safe, I mean nowhere near where I can knock it. Okay, and I'm just going to dab and dry and clean and try and get a lot of the moisture off this cable, which will now be a lot easier to work with. Okay, so here we go. Everything's glued. I've coloured it in black just because this is black, so if you have the silver wire, you might want to colour it in silver. It's actually better to colour it in before you put it on the roll. I just did it to demonstrate why we would do that. Okay, and then all we have to do is quietly start wrapping this around. You've got to hold it pretty tight. It will try and pull away from you because even though we've done what we've done, it's still quite stiff. And when you get so far, just push it all up and give it a pull, and just keep going and going and going. If you want to put a dab of glue on just to hold it in a certain place, then do so. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. It can be a very good idea. So I'm just going to dab some glue there, and then I'm going to come round again so it's on top of it, and I'm going to give it a bit of a spray blast, hoping that I've got the spot that had the glue on. And then I'm going to just keep going and going as best as I can, remembering to just push it up tight every now and again, and we keep going. Won't take very long to do this. It's about 12 full wraps, I think, if I remember rightly. And there we are. We're pretty much home. I might be able to squeeze another one in there. I think that's about there. So I'm just going to ease it back off a little bit, make sure it's nice and tight. And this time I'm definitely going to take some glue, and I'm going to dab that underneath as best as I can. It's a bit awkward to get at sometimes. I'm going to pull this down tight onto it, and I'm going to give it my blast. And then I'm just going to hold on to it for a minute or so. So I'm going to let the camera stop. And the reason I'm going to hold on to it for a minute or so is I like to make sure, even though I've got the setting spray, that it is actually set. Okay, so I've given it a minute or so to set, and as you can see, our cable drum is completely wound, but obviously I've got a long length left here. I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors and I'm just going to cut that back. If I can get these scissors to cut through it. There we go. And I'm just going to leave it like that for now. I will tidy that up a bit later. I just like to give it plenty of time for the glue to set before I start pulling and pushing at different bits like this. But essentially you can see that's the cable drum done. A little bit of tidy up to do on this piece and we are there. So it's a nice easy kit. You might want to give it a bit of a clean down if you've been using the spray like I have. Just take anything off you can. I always like to keep things clean. But overall, as you can see, it's a very nice, easy little project to do. And what you end up with is a very effective looking cable drum for 000, possibly N. The mediums are probably a little bit large for N. In fact, we'll come back in a second and I'll show you some examples on different wagons of different gauges. Okay, so a little bit fiddly, but I took my trusty craft knife and I've cut into the side, and you can just about see it here, possibly, where I've cut it nice and flush. It took me about 2 or 3 attempts actually to get it perfectly right where I was happy. But there you go, you can see it makes a nice effective looking cable drum. Looks like it's got either black PVC piping or very thick black PVC coated cable, and it's pretty an effective look, and it's also a little bit of fun to make it. So as promised, here we go with a 00 gauge wagon, and you can see the scale of this. It fits just in, or just on. It's up to you which way you would want to put it, but it's about right to fill a 00. Now, cable drums came in a myriad of sizes, but we've designed this one specifically so that it will actually fit in, if you want to use it with this type of wagon. If you want to use it with one that will fit 2, the 20-ton Hornby, the wagon here, will actually fit 2 cable drums of the medium size. Okay, so you can see that pretty much you can do whatever you desire with them. I personally prefer them on the bolster wagons. You know, I think that looks pretty good. Yeah. However, we do have the example of the large as well. This is an empty one. Okay, so I'm just going to put that to one side there. The empty one, it fits on a bolster wagon, but absolutely, if I just move it around there, it is absolutely just. It is wall to wall. So the medium and the large are both suitable for 00 gauge. The small, of course, will definitely fit on 00 gauge. In any orientation you care to put it. It's also pretty good. You know, they're pretty good for scenery and line side as well. However, obviously the large is never going to fit on an N gauge. The medium, well, you could use it for N gauge, but it's going to look really massive. The small is the equivalent of the large, really, when it comes to N gauge. So the small's okay for N gauge, but I wouldn't go for any of the larger ones. However, I have got my old display wagon here as well. This is O gauge, and you can see that the cable drum in large fits quite significantly and sensibly on that. You can put it pretty much either orientation that you like. The mediums don't look bad on there either. You can't quite get, well, you can just rather get 2 mediums side by side, giving you a little bit of an option there. So if we try doing it this way, however, you'll find it won't fit. Okay, but stood up, you can get 2 mediums, and of course the smalls don't look out of place on the O gauge either, because let's face it, cable drums come in all kinds of sizes. So we don't do them for a set gauge, we do them based on size. We can do them larger than these for you. If you want a custom order, we can do them smaller as well. I think the biggest size really that we could probably do is about a 200 mil diameter, sensibly, but that's going to look really massive no matter what gauge you've got out there, unless you're working with 5.5 inch, in which case it'd look quite nice actually, thinking about it. But there's a display there, and there's a choice there of what you'd like to do. So don't forget, we basically do the 34, which has nothing on it. It's just the cable drum for you to fill with whatever material you would like. We do the 35, which I'm just going to bring it closer to the camera, has real steel braided cable on it. And we do the 36, which has rather nice pipe effect on it. Okay, so up to you which one you would like to order, but pop along to CollectorStash.com or CollectorStash UK on eBay and make your purchase now.